Yack.
You're listening to Yack. Yack is the official podcast of the AAF Greater Lehigh Valley Ad Club. Our mission is to inspire creativity and enhance the professional development of the advertising and marketing communities where we live and work. I'm your host, Bill Childs, and I'll talk with artists, designers, writers, directors, photographers, along with those who work in a creative capacity. Our aim here is to serve as a creative resource to help you stay informed, entertained, and above all, inspired. But first, I want to thank ASR Media. We appreciate your support and collaboration. If you've ever wondered how exceptional design can shape spaces, elevate brands, and even transform how we experience the world around us, you've come to the right place. My guest today on the podcast is the award-winning and brilliant interior designer, JT Norman. Known for his bold creative approach to design and ability to turn ordinary spaces into works of art. JT's work has earned him acclaim in the design world and a reputation for being a visionary with a unique understanding of how to mix style, function, and storytelling into all of his projects. Whether it's a luxury penthouse or a commercial space, JT brings his distinct perspective to every project he touches. We discussed his recent design work on Meli, the newest Easton Greek restaurant, and how he transformed the old Maxims into a European oasis. After you hear him share his advice and expertise, you'll understand why he's in such high demand. We spoke at length about how he uses the power of creativity to ignite his curiosity, to how he uses storytelling in his work, and his core design philosophy is something I found fascinating. JT's approach to design is anything but conventional, and neither was this interview. I'm grateful he took the time to share his unique perspectives on the craft of what it means to be an interior designer. Here is my Yack with JT Norman. Creative people never are satisfied. We're always on the move. We're always looking for the next thing. We're always looking for, how can we improve what we once did? How do we learn from our mistakes? How do we take that forward? And I know that you're like that. You definitely have all those traits. And I want to dive into all of that stuff with you. I'm fascinated by, I know what my creative process is, but I really want to know, what is your creative process? Because I know when you start a project, there's the ideas that probably come out right away, right? They're just immediately like, right? And then you maybe let them simmer for a little bit. And then you kind of like, oh, I could do that. Oh, wow, I could do that. So I want to start at a restaurant that you recently redesigned, the complete interior, okay? Wonderful place in Easton called Meli.
Yes.
And And one of the things that I love about what you can do when you redo an interior space is it becomes experiential. It's not, to me, and I'm not an interior designer, but it becomes so much more. It gets elevated. There's an experience that happens. So talk about that a little bit with how you designed what you did at Meli.
You hit the nail on the head. It's got to be an experience, especially in the design industry. There's a mecca of designers out there. I think for me, design, when you're designing, you're telling a story, right? You're not just going in and just, I'm going to make this place look pretty. There's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. I think what I loved about the Meli project is that when I got involved in it, it wasn't a one-on-one with a single client, which I'm used to doing residential spaces. Now I'm doing commercial space. So who am I designing for, right? So I'm designing not only for the owners, but I'm designing for the general public. Right, how can I make this an experience for everyone? So now there's thousands of brains I have to get into. But before I get there, it's my process of how am I going to do this? Where do I start? Where do I begin? To not create any confusion, because what happens when you're doing a large project, there's many chefs start coming into the room. And as they say, too many chefs in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it truly was a learning experience. And what I've taken away from that design at Meli, am now applying that to future designs in commercial spaces or even in homes. So my process there was, I want to understand who's working here. Well, first of all, before understanding who's working there, the environment around the exterior of that restaurant, meaning the outside. I want to get to know a little bit about the city this restaurant is in, the people,
Sure.
right? And then it was to have these in-depth conversations with those who work at the restaurant, how they function.
Okay.
The chef, what is the chef cooking? And then it's back to the owners. And let's talk about your branding. What type of branding are you doing? You know, what type of advertising? What do you want the general public to know about what you're giving them? Not only what's on the menu, but what are you giving them as far as an experience goes? So there was many, many, many levels for me when I was designing that restaurant. And that took me about 8 months of really getting into the minds of everybody that works there, the people that live in the area, doing a lot of research. And what I love about, and as you know, I'm sure you've heard, I'm all about sustainability and repurposing. And that's what makes me a little bit unique as a designer, finding these textiles and these unique elements that I'm going to put into a space to create that experience. What was interesting about this project is, in the end, the owners were concerned. They're like,
how so?
Well, people are staying longer, JT. And I'm like, well, that's a wonderful thing. Maybe
I
that's a
could see
benefit.
that.
Right. So I'm thinking, well, don't worry about that. Maybe they're spending more money. They're ordering more drinks. They're ordering more appetizers, whatever it may be. When I first started the project, there was certain stipulations that were made to me, and I was taken back by it. First of all, make sure the windows are covered so that the general public can't see in, because the consumer likes to sit there and eat in private. And I thought, I know when I go out, I'm a people watcher. I enjoy my meal and conversation, and I like to see movement around me.
Okay. All right.
So opening night, and this is me, I'm very, very observant of what's going on around me. And again, this is part of my process. So I thought, you know what? These windows need to be open because the restaurant literally is at a traffic light, stop sign. So you can imagine the outside of the restaurant, everyone's just stopping in their cars and then just turning their heads and looking like, what is that? What's in there? I want to go in there, because they can now see beyond those windows. People enjoying their meals, and of course the setting. So with that, on opening night, I had all the window treatments pulled open. The owners were nervous, but what it did was it created this flood of interest from the general public that's just walking by. What is this? Sure. Wow, this is a really neat place. I want to go in there. I want to see what's going on. And then there's the environment itself. What could I do with this environment to make it feel as though you're not in a typical restaurant?
Well, I know what you mean, because I've eaten there, and it even before you sit down, you immediately feel good when you walk in there. Like, because everything is it just works. Now, I don't know how that happens or how you do that, but it really does give you just this, like, almost like a warm hug. Like, you walk into the place and you immediately feel this hug that you get. And if anyone out there has not gone to Meli yet, I would definitely put it on your list of places to go check out, because first of all, the food is fantastic, but
wonderful.
Just being in that space. I would imagine, were there things that you wanted to do that maybe you couldn't do? Like, did you have ideas in there that, I'm sure that happens with any other,
sure, that always
space
happens
you're designing
with me.
for.
That always happens with me, especially with these large projects. And I get a lot of resistance from the contractors, let's just say. You know, I come up with an idea, I present it to my client. My client, of course, presents it to the contractor, or I'm also there in conversation. And right away, there's that instant, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. That's just crazy. But I've learned, Bill, in this industry, and I've been in this industry for 30-something years, there's a way of how you communicate to these individuals. that are on your team that are helping you bring your idea to fruition.
Right.
So I've learned to talk to them differently. So as opposed to, instead of me going to them and say, I need this, I want it like, all right, let's do a car upside down on the ceiling and make sure the door is open and closed. That would be really cool. They're going to look at me like I'm a nut job.
Right, right.
So how I handle it is I say, hey guys, I know you're the perfect one for this challenge, and I know you can do it. Prove me wrong. I have this idea. I think it will be neat. And in the end, the results are just going to be so wonderful and inspiring. Do you think you can do it? They look at me like, oh, now I'm challenging them.
That's awesome. I love that.
And they embrace it. And then when we do it in the end, they don't shut up about it. Oh my gosh, remember when we did this? Oh, that was a great idea. And in the past, I've heard, bad idea, let's not do it. You're crazy. Where did this come from? So it's how you communicate with people, because I truly believe all of us have a sense and level of creativity in us. It's not necessarily asking for the permission to show that creativity. It's just, I believe it's about someone believing in you and that you can do it. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I really like that idea of you're almost asking the contractors to come along on the ride with you.
Exactly.
As opposed to, you need to do this, or you're not any good. That's amazing. I think you can have a little bit of that too in advertising and marketing when you're presenting ideas to a client.
Oh, absolutely.
I know that, or even a logo, even something as simple as a logo. I know that a lot of times when I would work on logo designs and it came time to present, I needed to make sure that the client felt they were a part of the process, because they are. It's not just me going out there just designing whatever I wanted. I still had to take in that input. I had to listen to what they wanted to do, what they wanted the logo to be, what they wanted it to look like, what they wanted it to feel like. And then, I go back and I start doing my work. But when I can bring a client into that process, I always was able to get the logo approved.
Yeah. And I think with me too, working on these large projects, as we all know, it takes an army, right? It takes a village.
Sure.
It takes a village.
And everybody's got an opinion.
But in my industry, there's a lot of designers out there that they're just become very competitive. I did this, and I'm like, it's truly at the end of the day, not about you. It's about that person who you're creating for. So if you can take your client's idea, tap into them, and bring it to fruition, the rest is history. You've made someone extremely happy. Someone who's looking at you like you're a wizard. How did you do that? There's been many times where I've been called the house whisperer. And I'm like, the house whisperer? Because I walk into these homes and people are frustrated. They're trying so hard to communicate with me and explain this idea they have in their head. And I have this wonderful gift. It's a gift, truly a gift, but it's also something that I've worked on for many years on how to connect with that client and read and understand where they want to get to. Right now we're living in a society. It's overload. There's so much information.
Too much
information, but I'm benefiting from it.
Okay.
How am I benefiting from it is because I have people calling me, I just can't anymore. I see all this stuff on the internet and I see all this and this and that. I just don't know what to go left, right, up, or down. And I'm like, let me hold your hand. And that's the key. It's holding their hand. And it's funny you bring that up on how my strategy is a little different, but it works, is because this is something that I truly want to get into. Is I would love to, in my journey, get into educating. I would love to teach my craft. I've had several students working with me, under me, and times have changed. When I went to school for design, it was truly, pencils and paper, and you really had to use math. You really had to there was a lot of ingredients that you had to put into to make a design happen. Now this new world we're living in, everything is computer generated. Does it worry me? It really doesn't worry me. I'm not afraid of AI. I think AI is a wonderful thing to its limits.
Okay.
But when you have a student come to me and say, I designed this room, what do you think? And I'm looking at it like, this is an AI generated room. And they're like, yeah, I know, but I did it on my computer. And I'm like, wait a second. Wait a second here. So is there a reason why you came up with this design? Well, no, the computer helped me. And I'm thinking to myself, was there a story? Is there a story behind this? Every picture has a million words, right?
No.
Is there, what made you get to this point in your design? And I just get this blank face, you know? I think the education system, as far as design goes, they've pulled away from really educating these students, I personally think, the correct way. And that is, you know, learning about different personas, learning about different cultures, learning about architecture in itself, getting these students out there to understand how textiles are created.
What you're describing though is the craft behind what you do,
yeah,
right? So every occupation, has the craft there. It's just a matter of, do you want to use it? Do you want to access it? I love how, so I wanted to ask about Meli real quick. I'm going to go back. So what was the overall reaction to when it was all done? How did the owners feel about it and that opening night? How did it go? What was the feedback after, you know, you had the opening night and everyone got to experience it?
I had a lot of interesting feedback. A lot of people were coming to me and they were saying, this is really weird. No one's picking up their phones. People are actually eating their meals and having conversation. And maybe that was part of that warmth that you felt when you walked in. I was able to infuse that commercial space with a sense of home, familiar, you know, being in a familiar place.
Yeah.
A lot of people were just like speechless. And I always struggle with that. I was like, why isn't anybody saying anything?
Yeah.
And my dad, a wonderful man, always told me, sometimes when people don't say anything, that's a good thing. It's because their minds are still trying to process
it. Yeah.
What's going on here? Why am I feeling this way in this space? This is a good thing. You know, so I think in the end, it was just, for me, very rewarding to see the community embrace the space. The business owners were just like, wow, they now know, and they will tell anybody when JT comes to design for you, just let him do his thing, you know, because it's a sense of trust.
I was lucky enough. You had me into that space when it was gutted, pretty much, and I just remember, you know, in my own mind thinking, you know, how is he going to do this? How is he going to turn? I mean, I knew you would, but the process of the end result to what it looked like when I was standing on drywall and nails and you know, booths ripped out and, you know, it just looked like nothing. And compared to what it looks like now, I just had a meal there like 3 weeks ago. And it's a stunning space. I mean, it really is extraordinary.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then you add in the fact that the food is really good. And then it just becomes this whole, you know, experience that, you know, all the things that you're saying while you're there, there's so much to look at, but it all works together. There's nothing that looks like out of place. I think that's really the magic of interior design, is just when you just feel good in the space, right? I mean, isn't that the end result, the end goal of what
absolutely, that's the end result. And to your question earlier, like, how do you get to there? You know, I think a lot of people don't realize the different levels there are. So yes, I designed that space. And what did that take to do that? Picking colors, textiles, right? Everything down to the plates the food is being served on. Right. And then bringing in the culture of what that restaurant represents, right? So it's layers. Even the music,
Yes.
And
Right.
all
Right.
right, so you have the music, you have the atmosphere, and then you have the overall design of the space. The brain just no, this makes sense. Wow, where am I? I've just been taken to this place
Yeah. Hmm.
that I'm not familiar with, but this feels wonderful.
You know what else
Yeah.
I think happens? I also think that the people that work there like
Yes.
being in the space so much that
Hmm.
that then translates to how they treat the customers.
Exactly. So
Right.
that's also part of my process. So
Mm-hmm.
my process is talking to the employees, watching them how they move and maneuver through the restaurant. What can I do to make their job easy?
Mm-hmm.
Also, make them feel, wow, I love working here. This place is just so beautiful. It's comfortable.
Right. Right.
Everything makes sense. So yeah, there's so many layers, so
So, what
many
do you
layers.
say to that person who submits an AI design? I mean, how do you navigate that in terms of showing them that okay, well, this is really not how interior design is done. It's nice that the computer gave you maybe a little bit of an inspiration, but there's as well as anybody, there's so much more that goes into it, as what we're talking about right now. So much more. So, what do you do? What do you do with that person that is kind of how do you?
Um, it's tough. You have to be careful. You don't want to hurt feelings.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be sensitive because most likely they are creative, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you handle that process? It's basically, reeling them in and saying, "Hey, okay, this is a beautiful design. Can you tell me a little bit more about the owner of this space? Who's going to be living in this
Mm.
space?" You know,
So it's
and then
about
I get the
asking good questions. It's
yeah,
about asking
it's
better questions.
right. So it's important to when you're designing a space to get to know the individual who's living in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they're using that space for, and also, they're showing me this AI image with all these beautiful colors and fabrics and everything, and I'm like, so now let's talk about the fabrics you used. What types of fabrics are you using in this space? And they give me this look like, what do you mean? I was like, well, for example, the window treatments. What are they made out of? Then I get this like, whoa, what do you mean? What are they made of? They're thinking, oh, it's fabric. No, there's more to it. Is it linen? Is it silk? Is it cotton? These things factor in function and design. And then they're like, I don't understand what you mean. And I have to give them an example. For example, if you use linen on a window treatment, and they're looking at me like I'm strange,
Mm-hmm.
how would I know this? And this goes back to all the knowledge that I've developed over the
Sure.
years working with people in the industry. Linen grows. It's a fabric that literally grows. So you're hanging that on that window a year from now, it's going to be puddling on the floor about a foot. I had no idea. So
Wow.
this leads to the importance of understanding those textiles that you're using in your design. They're not taught this.
Mm.
So this is what's creating the excitement in me now and this new journey that I'm taking is I would love to really truly educate these new and up and coming designers, and get them to understand the tools that they're using. It's just not a laptop that you open up and say, hey, design me a kitchen or a bathroom or
Mm-hmm.
a living room, and then boom, this image comes up. Because what AI doesn't do is it doesn't understand emotions in people, right?
No. Mm-hmm.
So, me, if I would just say, AI, can you just design of course, it's going to design me a kitchen, but it's really not having that full conversation with that person as to what they want in that space. Does that make sense?
It does. Right. And the thing
Yeah.
as I was listening to you talk about and describe all that, I think the thing that I believe kind of helps you with that or sets you apart with all of that is you just have a natural curiosity about you. So if you're naturally curious, either about
Always.
people, about spaces, about materials, about trends, about anything, that curiosity drives, your craft. It
Yeah.
drives your, you because you're on a constant quest. I mean, how many you said over 30 years you've been doing this, and I know that you treat every project as if it's your first one. You don't, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's art, Bill. It's art.
It totally
Every
are. Yeah.
project that I do is an art piece for me. I'm not hanging it on a wall, but someone's living in it, right?
Right. Right.
And it's funny you mentioned, me exploring and doing research on things. I don't like the word trends. I clearly avoid trends because to me, the word trends means temporary,
Mm,
right? So, and which
interesting.
is true, it's temporary.
Yeah.
I want to look for something that is timeless,
Mm.
something that just is there always. It is a few days ago I watched a wonderful movie, and you would appreciate this movie. Have you heard of Here, Here? Here?
No. Mm-mm.
Watch this movie.
Okay.
The way they do the cinematography in this movie, it's based on one living room. And this living
Oh,
room,
this is the Tom Hanks
yes,
movie.
yes.
Okay. Okay. I do
This
know. Okay. Yeah. All right. Continue.
and
Go ahead.
I'm watching it and I'm like, this is a great tool to use for design students because you're seeing this living room change with the different families, the
Mm-hmm.
different things they're going through life, and how it's affecting the interior,
Oh, wow.
the style of it. It's amazing. And I after I watched it, I was like, what did that remind me of? And I remember going to Disney World. What was the name of that ride that you sat on? And it went through time, and it showed a living room and kitchen just changing with the different
Oh, I don't know.
times. It
Interesting.
started off like in the 1900s, and it leads all the way up into the future.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I'm watching that movie. I was like, there it is. There it is. Although
Hmm.
there's a story behind it. Well, wait, what's that word? I just said story.
Yeah.
So what do I do in design? I tell a story, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So where do you think your curiosity came from, or your creativity for that matter? Where did that come from? How far back does that go for you? Your
Oh my
creativity.
gosh, how far back does it go? It certainly truly is a gift. It's definitely a gift. And once recognized, enhanced by
Mm-hmm.
the guidance of two incredible parents that I've had
Mm.
growing up that understood and knew that I was creative. For example, I remember my dad coming home from work, and I was like 8 years old, saying, "Where is my lazy boy today?" I'm
Oh.
like, well, what do you? Because
Uh,
I would continuously move furniture around the house. Um,
that's
I would
funny.
move, and this, Bill, when we met, and that's one thing that I noticed about you,
Mm-hmm.
and you still do, is you have that book always in front of you, and your pen is always moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's creative energy. It's your thoughts. You're recording
Sure.
your thoughts, and it's also, I believe that would be stimulation for you and how
Yeah.
you think. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I was with objects,
Mm.
always moving objects around. And moving objects, which led to telling stories with objects.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
So talk
yeah,
talk a little bit about your parents. Tell me about what your parents were like.
my parents were amazing. My mom was, oh, so talented. Extreme. My mom is from Puerto Rico. Well, I tell people my parents are truly the story of West Side Story.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, this Irish boy from the Bronx, my mom coming right over here from Puerto Rico, and my dad's, father saying, "Oh, forbidden to marry her." They got married, you know, started a wonderful life, raised four boys. There's four of us. Um, my mom, very, very creative woman, very good with her hands, with fabrics, with gardening. She was Martha Stewart for her time, an amazing
Okay.
woman.
What did she do for a living?
My mom, well, originally wanted to be a midwife, which she met my dad and ended up working for a chocolate company. And I always picture Lucille Ball on the on the
Oh.
conveyor belt. And then ended up getting into a lot of sewing, and she was discovered for her beautiful work with designing clothing and outfits, and got involved in the theater and doing creative costumes for the theater,
For the theater? What type of theater?
Broadway shows,
Broadway.
New York
Wow.
City. Yeah, yeah,
And what'd
yeah.
your dad do?
My dad was a detective for New York City. So, I mean, which leads to the story of where I am today. And this is fun, is when you're raised in one of the suburbs of New York City. I was born and raised on Staten Island and then moved into New York City. You were either a fireman or a police officer. That's just what it was back in the day.
Okay.
Police officer, I couldn't see it. Fireman, not going to happen. So what could I do to make my parents happy, right? So I decided to lean towards law, thinking law is
Okay. All right.
all right. And I pursued going to school for law just to be to start off as a paralegal, and I was not good at it. I was just really not good at it. Many times I was thrown out of court working for attorneys because I was the one calling out the people we were representing. I just didn't have it in me to be the devil's advocate.
Right.
So what they did with me, I worked for a law firm for several years down on Wall Street in Manhattan, very large law firm of 42 attorneys. They pulled me away from law and they just made me a clerk. So I would handle motions and examinations before trial.
Okay.
And I would go in there on the weekends, and I'd be in these offices like, wow, they should paint this office. Maybe I think he should move it. And it started off with me asking one of the attorneys there. I'll never forget him. God rest his soul, Bill Lazzaroni. I said to him, do you mind if I just, paint your office? And he's like, sure, I'll pay you to do it. Painted his office, hung artwork up. This became a domino effect in the law firm.
Which tends to happen with you.
Yeah. So in the end, my boss pulled me aside and my boss's partner, and they're like, you're in the wrong business. You need to get involved in design.
Wow.
So I was very blessed and fortunate. They represented me to get into Parsons School of Design.
I was going to say, so that's just school, Parsons.
Yeah.
And then didn't you go to another
FIT? I went to Fashion and Technology, for 3 years. So I had 4 years at Parsons and then 3 years at FIT, and a wonderful time. Let's just say a wonderful creative. Because back in the day, it was better. I don't know, maybe because there was less technology.
Probably.
Yeah.
So so at that point, then you come out of school. Then what? Then what did you do? Then does it just happen immediately, or how did you kind of get clients? Where did you go to work? What was your next step after that? After you got out of school?
Well, that was a time when I was the first World Trade Center bombing. I don't know if you remember that.
Sure. Of course.
And living in New York and being familiar with New York, I thought for myself there was a time that I would just leave New York and venture out, because that's just how I am. I'm very spontaneous, up and leave.
Okay.
And I remember getting in my car and saying, wherever I end up, I will live and I will start my life. And I got in my car and I drove in the middle of a snowstorm, and I ended up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of it all. Here I am in the land of just farms. What designer is going to survive out? Who's going to use me, right? So I got acclimated with living out here in the country. I love it out here. It's very, for me, inspiring. I love nature. And anyone who knows me, it's not only design. I love gardening. I love building furniture, and just I'm an on-hands person, which brings me back to where, not to throw you off, when I went to design school, my father said to me, if you're going to go to design school, do not be a bartender. Do not work in a restaurant. I want you to go work alongside of the trade in your industry. And that was masons, plumbers, electricians. And I did that.
That's smart.
Yeah. Well,
that's
those
very
are
smart advice.
And those tools.
Wow.
Very, very, very handy. And I think that's what makes me a little bit different from most designers that I meet, because now I know how to do electric. I know how to do plumbing. I know how to do masonry. So when I'm in a space, and that also helps my communication with contractors.
Exactly. That's what I
And
was thinking.
they look at me like, you're a designer. How do you know this?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, there's more to me than you would know, and that helps with my relationships. So not to throw you off. So I ended up
No,
at.
I wanna actually talk about that a little bit. I think that is brilliant. That is
Mhm,
that to me, that's the key. I think that's the key because
mhm.
that really gave you that other side of knowledge that you needed, but maybe necessarily most people would be like, well, why don't I want to go learn that? I'm a designer. No, 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 no. That's part of your craft. You need to know that. You know now what can't be done or what can be done, right? You know what I mean? As it comes to like some of these
Right,
things in
and
the spaces.
I could build a house. I could actually build a house.
Right, right. And
You
do
know,
it by
I could
yourself and
build a
not asking
space and
AI to do it.
right. No, but I mean that was so smart
Yes.
advice, and that has really taken me further than I thought it would take me. You know,
Right,
with
right.
with what I do, with what
Like
I
when he
do.
told you that, did you know at the time like how like kind of brilliant that advice was? Because or was it just kind of like but you followed it. So you must have known that it was good advice to take or you just maybe
I
trusted your
think
dad.
for yeah, I think for me, you know, having this talent that I was born with, of course, being
Uh-huh.
creative, I was always a tinkerer. You know, I liked tinkering,
Yeah.
and right away, instantly, when my dad said that, I actually had a sense of joy in me. Like, well, that would be fun. You know, like
Yeah.
I didn't get angry like, what? I can't bartend, make great tips. You know, I can't. Do some kind of oddball job just to make money to get through school. I thought, well, this kind of makes sense. It's something that I've been craving and wanting to do at the time, and it was a great opportunity. And I met so many wonderful people doing it, and these are people that are just like so seasoned,
Yeah.
should I say? You know, I mean, a lot of these workers were from other countries, from
Hmm.
Italy. You know, with these masons that broken English, teaching me how to work with concrete or
Hmm.
how to lay a brick or
Right. Right.
to how to trowel a stucco and everything. So
I think
yeah.
that's the key is the key to being a well-rounded creative person is to be willing sometimes to look outside of your own industry and learn things from other people that maybe you think might not even apply to what you're doing, but it kind of does. I'll give you an example. Let's say we worked at a hospital, right?
Yeah.
We worked in at a hospital and there was a conference coming up that was maybe for banking, a banking conference.
Hmm.
Would we go to that conference? Or would we think, well, why would we go to that conference? We work in healthcare. We should stay in the healthcare conference lane. But really, by attending that banking conference, you might get some ideas there that you wouldn't get at the healthcare conference. You follow what I'm saying? You kind of
Oh,
live that.
100%.
You've lived that with by going to work with these masons and these electricians and these carpenters. That is to me that's brilliant. I said it already, but I just can't say it. That I love that so much that your dad told you that. Don't be a bartender or a waiter. Go get these other skills that are going to come back and apply.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
would benefit me, and they did benefit me. And here again, history is repeating itself. And this
mhm.
goes back to when we met, Bill. You know, the company we worked for, I was an experiment. I really truly was an experiment. Let's bring in a
Yeah.
designer and create this bridge between marketing
Hmm.
and operations, right?
Yeah.
And what I
Uncharted
learned,
territory. You were in
yes,
uncharted territory in a
and
canoe by yourself.
yeah, and with operations, you're working with people that are just very. Their mindset is
Different mindset. Yeah.
a totally different mindset from that creative mind in marketing, which outside of the box, bigger and louder,
Right.
and and then operations, everything is just so
Well, it's just more regimented. It's more
but
like,
more regimented. Yeah,
yeah. Well, that's
but
what I liked about what you were able to do is you were not afraid. Like you have no fear when it comes to like at least expressing an idea. I mean,
Right.
sometimes people even get, could get uncomfortable with that. It's like, whoa, that's a big idea. Okay, well, don't worry, it's just a thought.
Hmm.
We're not doing it, but let's talk about it. And that was always been my kind of gripe, is that I feel like sometimes you just need to be able to like let people have those thoughts and those conversations, and that's how you get the next big idea, is by allowing those conversations to happen and not try
Yes.
to kind of control them or squash them or tell someone like, oh well, that'll never work, oh we tried that before, or all those things that sometimes leaders think they're helping by saying. Just just create an environment where the ideas can flow freely, and you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised sometimes by what you
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, and that leads back to conversation. I mean, that leads back to
Yeah.
how do you present your idea without being a threat, right?
Mm,
Because, like you said, the initial reaction is when you have an idea, it's, oh, we can't do that, or why are you thinking
right.
that?
Immediately the walls
But
go up.
but really, what's going on in their head? What are they actually really thinking when you're presenting this wonderful idea with
Hmm.
great potential? Um, I've learned that presenting ideas, you really have to have a prototype for some people. You can just sit there and
Sure.
talk all you want and show a drawing.
Yep.
Some people just need the actual thing in front of them, you know.
Yeah.
So, um,
Well, you could probably, if you're working with a client that understands you, I think,
mhm.
and knows what you're about, you could probably sketch something very quick on a napkin, and they go, "Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, I see that. Oh, yeah,
Right.
that'll be cool." Where someone else might need an entire, what is that program that you use? The program with the 3D. What is that called?
2020, you mean?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a whole rendering with like,
Right. Renderings.
the
Yes.
whole thing kind of completely done, and then they go, "Oh, yeah, now I know what you mean."
But even with renderings, I've gotten pulled back. Like,
I know.
really?
How do you handle that? How do you handle rejection from clients or
I've learned to
from
handle it well because I've learned to step back and say, all right, so this idea is not grabbing traction here. Accept it, walk
Mhm.
away, put that idea in your back pocket because you're going to present it again some other time.
Right.
And someone's going to grab that idea and run with it. So I don't let myself down in any way, shape, or form. I say, well, this particular group doesn't understand, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But don't take that idea and throw it away. Put it in your back pocket and
Sure.
represent it another time to a different group of minds.
That's
And
good
that's how,
advice.
yeah, that's how you have to do it. I mean, there's a reason why you came up with that idea. And your brain has proof that it's going to work. But like you said, you're going to get rejection a lot. So don't throw it away. Never throw away, because no idea is a bad idea. Bill.
Mm.
No idea is a bad idea. And I think the best way that anyone could grow in any craft or whatever they do is to continue to make mistakes. Mistakes are important. It's okay to trip. It's okay to fall. It's okay to be rejected. Keep making those mistakes, because eventually those mistakes turn into a different reality. They turn into success. And
Yeah,
I've
that's a
learned that in my journey. I've learned
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I remember the one agency owner that I used to work at. I used to work at an agency called RM Squared, and Dan Ross, the agency owner, was very big on um, letting ideas go where they want to go. Don't try to
Mhm.
fight them. Let them see where they want to go, and have the courage to follow those ideas sometimes. But one of his things that he would say, and I always thought was really good, was he would say, sometimes you can get a good idea on the way back from a bad one.
Oh, wow.
And I was
Yes.
like, oh, yeah, you're right. So don't be afraid to throw it out, put it
No.
out there, because an idea, and this is what I loved about working with you was, I may have a thought or you may have a thought, but once it leaps into my brain, then it becomes, I can kind of spin it around in there and spit it back out. And you go, oh, I didn't think of that. You see what I mean? So it's like you might have thought it was a bad idea. You said it anyway. I took it, picked it up, and went, nope, wait a minute, there's something there. Let's pull on that a little bit. So that's what I love about collaboration. And when you have creative people that don't have egos and just are just willing to kind of say, let's serve the idea. How do we make this idea be the best that it can be? Boy, that's where the magic is. Once
Oh
ego
yeah.
comes into play, forget it. You're done. You're over.
Well, I
And
mean, you were part of Bill. You kind of cracked a little bit of a you cracked a shell on me for sure as a mentor because I believe when I met you, I was at a point where there was a lot of rejection, and I got to this point where I'm just like, I'm just not going to present anymore. No one's listening to me,
mm-hmm.
and it was you that pushed me to be loud. Just be loud, JT. Let it out. Just let it out. And I did, and we did a lot of wonderful media work together, where I got my ideas across to the general public, and with a great reaction to it too. And it made me think, well, yeah, Bill's right. Just be loud, to an extreme, but be loud. And
I've never been accused of being quiet. That's for sure. I think I heard that a lot. I think that was part of like even my early school years. I think teachers liked my curiosity, but I often didn't know how to kind of control it or contain it. So it was kind of just all over the place, and I probably was a lot.
Yeah.
From what I think back, when I was kind of growing up and kind of finding my way, I think I was a lot. If I'll just leave it there, I think I was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of similarities there, even though you were, raised out here and I was raised in the city. A lot of similarities though, as far as our journey goes with people embracing our ideas and that frustration of like, is somebody going to get it? But at the end of the day, now I think it doesn't matter if someone gets it, you get it. It's how you deliver it,
Right. Yeah.
So I work extra hard now on my delivery. A lot of bells and whistles, the whole production. You have to be a little extra creative now to deliver your message or your idea,
So what do you see for you in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the plan look like? Where's your journey going?
That's a great question. When I think back and look at what I've accomplished as a designer and changing people's lives, I see a bigger picture. Getting involved in helping communities grow from an exterior or an interior way. For sure, definitely getting more involved with the development of communities, educational centers, even not only hospitality, but hospitals, the medical aspect of this industry. So there's a lot of things I want to do, but mainly I would love to get into educating. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm feeling it a lot. I'm seeing it a lot. There's been a lot of these students out there that are creative, and I feel as though they've just are not getting the right tools that they need to express what they want to create and present. And I know, and I have this fire in me that if I can just get more students, and just, help them realize the importance that their idea is important and that people are watching you, people are listening to you.
I mean, one of the reasons, or one of the many reasons that I wrote the book, my book too, was that I just feel like, we need creativity so much today, so much more than I feel we've needed in the past, and we all have it. It's just, some of us are using it, and some of us, it got educated out of us, and I feel like if we can start to kind of get back in touch with it, we're all going to be better off. People are going to be better off in their lives. Their work is going to be better. The work that they produce is going to be better, and you can lay that all at the feet of creativity. I really do believe that.
Yeah. I totally believe that. Yeah. Um, I think it's again, it's back to the educating people how to use the tools that they have,
Hmm.
that they're born with,
Right.
those tools without using the assistance of AI or technology, you know, I believe helps you build muscle, creative muscle, right? If that makes any sense, you know, get down and dirty,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. Don't
see,
be afraid.
touch,
You said it. Don't be afraid to fail.
don't be
Huge,
afraid to fail. Yeah,
huge
don't.
component of success. Do not be
Yes.
afraid to fail.
No, I look at some of my failures now like, wow, wow, what I learned from that. But
That's it
look,
right there.
what I've learned from that failure has created the success today. It took a few years,
Hmm.
but it's going to happen, right?
What about, yeah? What about the design industry? How is the industry? What's the health of the industry in your opinion right now?
The industry is all over the place, but I'm loving it. It's opportunity for me.
Okay.
As you
How
know,
so?
Bill, as you know, Bill, with introducing different types of design in the industry. For example, remember Chiphandy
Hmm.
or biophilic design,
Hmm.
which for those who don't know, biophilic is bringing the outdoors in. Great concept. I'm all for that, but it really didn't grab that much.
Okay.
Maybe it's because not everybody has a green thumb. I don't know. But it was mainly about sustainability. But the other day, interestingly enough, I heard this one word and I was like, "Poof, that's it." So the new term they're using, Bill, is called dopamine decor.
Oh
I,
no.
I heard this dopamine decor and I was like,
You got to explain
that's
that
it.
one.
That's it. That you can't make this up.
Nope.
But think about it. So, and yes, I do see it. People they want something in their environment that makes them happy, something that's nostalgic that reminds
Mm.
them of a grandparent, a relative, brother or sister. We've gotten to this place where, believe it or not, with mass production, we want to be less plastic or less mass produced. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I'm going into these homes now and I'm like, wow, this house has a personality. This house hugs me.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's not like it was back in the day where everybody had to be like the Joneses, right? That doesn't exist anymore.
Personal style
Or
now,
or for a
right?
while, and for a while there, I won't mention any names. Everything started to get a little bit of gray, black, and white,
Mm.
and a lot of shiplap everywhere.
What is
But that
Japandi again? What was that? What was Japandi?
Japandi is a sense of using your environment. It's a feeling in the home. Japandi. Japandi is just balance. It's very
Mm.
similar to feng shui.
Okay.
Let's just say
Okay.
very similar to feng shui.
Well, let me ask you this: who are some of your designers who that you look to that are doing some inspiring work that you could be national, international? Who are some interior designers that you
That
look
are
to,
new in the industry now, you
or just
mean?
that you admire? Who you admire their work?
I've always been an admirer of Lloyd Wright. I'm showing
Hmm.
my age,
Okay.
Dorothy Dandridge. I mean, geniuses. These were geniuses back in the day that were amazing designers. I don't really fall to or follow anybody in the industry now.
Okay.
Um, and I think a lot has to do with everything is, again, back to technology. Things are being created for these designers on a level because they're so focused on this new age we're living in of being an influencer,
Mm.
right? So
Okay.
behind these influencers is a lot of technology, which I believe, again, here back to saying very misleading. You watch these designer influencers living in these phenomenal homes and everything, and they're gorgeous and beautiful. In the meantime, it's just really a cardboard backdrop, and
Hmm.
they're in a 5 by 6 room with
Hmm.
fancy lighting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
so
let me ask you
again,
this: who or what inspires you? Where do you get your inspiration from? What kind of gets your motor running?
for me, if my tank is low on creativity or inspiration, I always go to the sources, and it's going back to what my dad said. Always go, work with those people in the industry that are on hands, the trades, right?
Okay.
So, for example, if I am, let's say, I want to create a beautiful space in my backyard, right? Where do I go? I go to the nearest local farm and start talking to a horticulturist
Okay.
to educate me on what's the best thing for me to grow, and that gets them excited because I'm showing them interest, and they start showing me their
Sure.
work.
Sure.
Go
Love that.
to a local carpenter, or even talking to a general contractor.
Hmm.
A lot of
Yeah.
these contractors that I work with, they all have these little side hobbies, and you'd be shocked what they do on the side as far as being creative. But being a contractor, they're just building these structures, and only for me to discover on the side they're building this gorgeous furniture or something unique and interesting that they're not applying to what their everyday, you know,
Right.
job or what they do.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's where people, creativity really can touch anything. It can
mhm.
influence anything, and we need it. It's in desperate short supply, but it's really, it's about, if certainly if you're working in a company, having a leader that really, they don't have to make you more creative. What they have to do is give the people an environment to allow creativity to show up. You know, creating that creating the space that says, I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear the crazy thoughts. I don't care. Like, I want to, it's fuel.
Mhm.
It's fuel for the next idea. And if you can have a company or a space or a group of people that are comfortable with each other and can share ideas without kind of making someone feel bad, boy, that's just really, to me, where the magic lives, is in that space.
Yeah, and transparency, Bill.
Okay.
Transparency.
What do you mean?
So you
What
have
do you mean
these
by that?
designers that are out there working for design firms, or just these any business that's in this industry of making a home beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, what's really fueling it and running it and what makes it happen? It's money, right?
Okay.
So it's about revenue. So you end up working for these companies that these leaders are, they hear and see your creativity, but they're more paying attention to the number, which is important. That's how you run a
Of
business,
course. Of
correct?
course. Hmm.
But that could have a tendency to put a damper on those creative individuals that are doing what they can to introduce or create a better way of revenue for a company. So you ignore and don't pay attention to that. That's your resource. That's a great resource. That's what's going to make the changes in your company,
Hmm.
these creative individuals, right?
That's right.
So if you focus on just the numbers and start run, and this is why maybe I'm doing so well in the industries, because I'm very honest with my clients. I hold their hand, and they come to me and they say,
Right.
listen, they say, JT, we only have $10,000 to spend, and this is what we want. I don't look at them like, well, I can't help you. I'm
Hmm.
like, let's have fun. Let's figure this out together, because we're going to get you that look that you want, maybe with the not with the same materials and things. Will be close to get you that look that you want, that feel that you want on your budget. That becomes a challenge for me, a big challenge.
And you love
Very,
challenges.
very rewarding challenge for me, because in the end, I'm giving them what they want. They're excited. How did we do this with this amount of money? Creativity. We're thinking a little differently.
Hmm.
And it just spreads like wildfire. And before you know it, my phone is ringing off. People call, you saved my friend this much money. Oh my God. And it's gorgeous.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
beautiful, and blah, blah, blah. And um, again, transparency, Bill. It's about,
Okay.
especially in this industry, you've got to help people. People are being flooded and flooded with so many ideas from the internet, this dangerous device that we all have. You
Hmm.
know, if you can be the eyes and ears for them, and walk them in a path to where they feel comfortable with you, they trust you, and they know that you're going to deliver based on their requests financially.
Hmm.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Yeah.
So what type of advice would you give someone, who just, is just kind of feeling that they're not being heard with their ideas and their thoughts and their, they're feeling, that feeling you get where you're just kind of, you feel like, why am I even saying anything? No one's listening. No one's hearing me. I mean, what advice do you have for someone that's in that position? What do you think?
That's a great question. It's a difficult question.
How do you get through that phase?
It all depends on where they are. Why are they feeling that way? Who's making them feel that way?
Hmm.
Where are they working? Who are the people that, you are the company you keep. We all know that,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
So part of that process of finally being heard, I believe, is you have to make changes. You have to have courage, um, and just
Hmm.
go for it and do it. You can't make Peter Paul. I know
Right.
that. But
Right.
sometimes the best thing that you can do is search for those people who think like you. Because
Hmm.
most likely they're the ones that are going to give you that key to open that door or send you in the direction of the right path of where to go to finally be fulfilled with people listening to your ideas and embracing them.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place for us to end, right on that note right there. I
Yeah.
want to thank you for doing this. This has been awesome. I enjoyed talking to you. I enjoyed working with you. I had some really cool times when we worked together. I really got to see. I felt like we were like bookends.
We were.
We were definitely cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, we were. And I'll never forget the day that I met you, Bill. And I want to, I'll be quick with this.
Yep.
I remember walking in and sitting right across from you, literally, our
Mm-hmm.
desks were.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned around and I was like, I believe that I am working with the reincarnated Orson Welles. I'll never-
Got to
and
explain
then,
to my audience who Orson Welles is.
yeah. And then, boom, it exploded from there. And it's been an amazing journey, an absolutely amazing journey. And we continue this journey
Mhm.
together with, you know, guiding each other and sharing our experiences.
Well, and if you remember, hey, listen, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows either. There were times we
No,
had
no,
some
no,
tough
no.
conversations, right? But we always had the idea in mind. We always wanted to serve the idea, make the idea the best that it could be.
Right.
And I feel like we did that. And I'm proud of the
Oh,
work that
yeah.
that we did accomplish. And look, we've remained friends even though we don't work together anymore.
You are the people you keep, buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
So surround yourself with people that are going to prop you up and tell you
Mhm.
you got this. Go for it. Don't be afraid. Like I think that's great advice. Yeah, that's really good advice because if you're hanging with people that are kind of like negative and just pointing at all the faults and that starts to get into your soul and you know what I mean? You carry that around and then it's coming out in your interactions with other people and it's just it compounds.
Yeah, that type of support should not be temporary, right?
Right. Right.
You develop your own community that's there always to support you, whether you worked with the person in the past or not. Keep that individual as part of your community because that person has helped you go to the next step,
And
right?
creative people, JT, creative people, they want to make things better. They don't want to tear
Oh, yeah.
things down. They don't want to make things
No.
worse. They don't want to like help you lose money or
Right.
they I believe that creative people at their core have an inherent belief that they can make any situation better.
Yes.
Just with being curious, with
Mhm.
asking questions, with
Mhm.
removing ego, right? Being
Yeah.
willing to listen to what they have to say on an idea, like you said, not taking it personal, not getting jammed up if they didn't like your idea, which I loved your advice on that. That was really cool about just saying that it's just not for them right now, but keep it in your back pocket.
Always keep it in your back pocket. Never throw away your ideas, ever, ever. You will eventually use them and they will be a success. They
So if
will.
people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? If
Do you
somebody
want
wanted
me
to,
to? Reach out to me. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know how that works with Yack.
Well,
anyone,
where would they go to look at your work or find you? How do you?
just JTN Designs, the number 4, the letter U at RCN. And then you could always pick up that phone and give me a call too. I always answer my phone, 610-533-0046.
There you go.
Yeah.
JT, thank you for being on Yack, man. You're an inspiration to me, and keep on keeping on, man. Keep doing your thing. We need you. We need your creativity. We need your fire, your energy, your passion. You're doing it right. You're out there doing great stuff.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for doing this.
Same to you.
Be well, my friend.
You too.
All right, Yackers. Hope you enjoyed it, because we have many more great conversations planned and guests lined up ready to yak it up. Yack is sponsored and produced by ASR Media. Theme song was written and performed by Dan Ross. Yack is the official podcast of the AAF Greater Lehigh Valley Ad Club. Stay hungry, stay humble. Till next time.
This episode of Yack is rated O for, oh man, that was good.